My name's Denise. I'm 61, and this is the story of how my own daughter, Clara, left me in the middle of our vacation, like I was nothing more than an old suitcase she didn't want anymore. That morning felt totally normal. Looking back, now, it was too normal. I woke up thinking Clara and her husband, David, had just taken their little girl, Mia, out for breakfast. Maybe they went for a walk to enjoy the early sun. Nothing seemed weird at first. The cruise cabin was quiet, but not in a way that raised alarms. I stretched, sat up, and looked over at the other bed. It was perfectly made. Not a single wrinkle. That was strange. Clara always left things messy. Always. I looked around the room. It was spotless. No sign of them ever being there. I checked for my bag. It was gone. Clara's flowery duffel bag. Gone. David's headphones. The ones he's always glued to. Not on the dresser. Mia's stuffed bunny. Not even under the bed. I opened the closet. Empty. I walked into the hallway, barefoot, still in my sleep shirt, feeling confused. The hallway was dead quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engine. I picked up my phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi. My chest felt tight, but I kept moving. I went down to guest services and tried to sound calm, even though my heart was racing. Before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe, and please tell me and others what's one life lesson everyone should hear before it's too late. Share it in the comments below. Thanks. My family isn't in the room, I told the woman at the counter, and I can't reach them. Before I go on, have you ever been left behind by someone you trusted? Someone you thought would never turn their back on you? If you've been through something like that, leave your story in the comments. I read every single one, and if you want to hear more stories like this, hit like and subscribe. It really does help, and I'd love to have you here. The woman at the desk asked for names. I gave them: Clara Bell, David Bell, Mia Bell. She typed quickly, then her face changed. Not a big reaction, but I saw it. They disembarked this morning, ma'am, at the Coral Breeze stop. My ears rang. I'm sorry. What? They checked out around 7:45 a.m., took all their bags. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I said, they wouldn't leave without telling me. There must be a mistake. She turned her screen, so I could see. There, it was grainy video of Clara in sunglasses, pushing Mia's stroller. David had 2 suitcases. They looked calm. They weren't rushing. They didn't even glance back. I walked back to the cabin in a daze, my hands shaking. I opened the in-room safe. Empty. My passport, gone. My wallet, gone. All that was left was half a protein bar I'd brought from Newark. I sat down, staring at my phone, trying to breathe. Finally, one message came through. Just one, from Clara. You'll be okay. Just rest. That was it. No explanation. No check-in. Nowhere. Sorry. I stared at it for 10 minutes straight. I tried to convince myself something serious had happened, some emergency. I needed answers. So, I did what I always do when I feel lost. I took control. I marched to the ship's security office and asked for more footage. The guy there, Marco, looked like he was in his early 30s. He was kind, offered me water, and said he'd help. He pulled up more video. Clara and David were laughing. Mia was pointing at a balloon stand. Clara was scrolling on her phone. Then came the part that hit hardest. Clara stopped just before leaving the ship, reached into her tote bag, and pulled out my blue leather wallet. I saw it clearly. My initials, DS, for Denise Stone. It was mine. Marco paused the screen. That's yours. I just nodded. I couldn't speak. Something inside me broke. This wasn't an accident. I wasn't forgotten. I was left. On purpose. I thanked Marco and left. Numb. I didn't cry. I just felt empty. I went back to the cabin one last time and sat down to think. I remembered the call from Clara 3 months ago. We want to do something special for Mia's 3rd birthday, she had said. A cruise sounded perfect. No driving, no stress. I offered to help, like I always do. Clara said they'd cover the flights if I booked the cruise. So, I paid $5,380 for the whole thing. I even upgraded to a balcony so Clara wouldn't feel stuck inside. I packed motion sickness bands for Mia, sticker books, even her favorite sippy cup with the faded unicorn on it. I did everything right. I was helpful. I showed up. I was present. And still this. They planned it. There's no other way to see it. They waited until I was asleep and walked off that ship like I was baggage too heavy to carry. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the cabin door, holding my phone, staring at the lock screen, hoping maybe I dreamed the whole thing. I didn't. The next morning, I made a decision. If they could leave me so easily, I could live without them. I wasn't going to chase them. I wasn't going to beg for answers. I would go home, and when they returned, they'd find someone new, someone who doesn't wait by the phone, someone who remembers everything, and finally learns how to walk away too. But first, I had one thing left to do. I was going to Coral Breeze Beach Resort. If Clara and David really walked off that ship with my passport, my wallet, and my granddaughter, like I was just some annoying ghost they were done with, I needed to see it with my own eyes. I had to see it for myself. Not through a blurry video or someone else's words. I needed the truth, right in front of me. I found a crumpled 20 and 2 fives tucked inside my shoe, money I always travel with just in case, and used it to get a seat on the shuttle headed to Coral Breeze Beach Resort. The woman selling tickets didn't even look at me. I asked about WIFI, she just shook her head. That was it. No one really notices you when you're an older woman alone, with nothing but a tote bag and too much on your mind. I sat in the back of the shuttle, staring out the window. The bus stopped at happy places, families holding hands, couples taking selfies, kids bouncing with sugar and excitement. But my mind was stuck on last night. That video, that text, "You'll be okay, just rest." What kind of daughter leaves her mother stranded on a cruise ship, with no passport, no money, not even a phone call? I didn't want to cry again. It felt pointless, like grieving someone who was still alive, but had made it clear they didn't care if I was. When the shuttle dropped us off, I walked into the resort like I belonged there. No questions, no hesitation. I used to do this kind of thing for work, walking into intense situations, acting like I was in charge. I spent 35 years as a social worker. You learn to look people in the eye and keep walking. The lobby was bright and noisy, but I didn't stop. I headed straight toward the pool, and there they were. Clara was lounging on a chair, sunglasses on, legs crossed, scrolling her phone like she didn't have a care in the world. David was across the pool, shirtless, sipping something orange. Mia was running around in her little swimsuit, laughing, licking a gelato cone. I froze. I don't know what I expected. Panic, regret, but not this. They weren't worried. They weren't searching. They were fine. More than fine. They looked like they were celebrating. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone and hit record. I wasn't even sure why. Maybe to remind myself it was real. Maybe to prove to someone later that I hadn't imagined this betrayal. Then Clara looked up. She saw me. Her sunglasses didn't move, but I saw the flicker of recognition. She let out a breath like I'd just ruined her day. I walked right up to her. No yelling, no scene. "You left me," I said. Calm, straight, just the truth. She didn't even flinch. We needed space, Mom. That was it. No apology, no guilt, just that, like we were in some therapy session. "You took my passport, my wallet. You left me in a different country," I said. She snapped back. "Because if we didn't, you'd follow." Then she added, "We just needed a break from you." I stood there, blinking, trying to make sense of it. This was the same girl who used to cry if I missed one of her school plays, the same daughter who once sobbed on the phone after David lost his job, whispering, "I don't know what I'd do without you." I remembered all of it: wiring her rent twice in 1 year, buying diapers when Mia was born, cooking frozen meals after her surgery. I remembered being there, always, but in her mind now, I was the problem. David walked over, clearly annoyed. "Can we not do this here?" he muttered, eyes avoiding mine. "You chose to come find us." I didn't say another word. I turned and walked away. Clara said something low to him, but I didn't care. I was already gone mentally, emotionally. There was nothing left to say. I took the same shuttle back to the ship. This time, it felt even quieter. I looked down at my phone. The video was still playing, paused on Clara feeding Mia another bite of gelato. They looked like they were having the time of their lives. When I got back, I asked to see Marco, the kind security guard from before. He wasn't working, so I returned to my cabin alone. It felt smaller now, like the air had gotten heavier. I opened the safe again, still empty. No wallet, no documents, just me and that protein bar I still hadn't touched. Finally, I got enough signal to check my banking app. That's when I saw it. A new charge, $399 at the resort's under Clara's name, and it was billed to my emergency credit card. The one I'd set up for just in case. The one she still had a copy of. My stomach sank. I'd never removed her from the account. And now, I was still paying for the vacation I'd been erased from. I called the credit card company and froze the account. The woman asked if I wanted to file fraud charges. I said, not yet. She told me over $2,000 had been charged since the cruise started. My head throbbed. I ended the call and just stared at the ceiling. And then, Mia, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Did she ask about me? Did she wonder why I wasn't there? Did Clara tell her I left on purpose? That question hurt more than any of the rest, because deep down, I feared the answer. I thought about calling Rosemai's old friend from home, but I knew if I heard her voice, I'd fall apart. And I couldn't afford to fall apart. Not yet. I had to survive first. Get home, rebuild, figure out exactly what they'd taken and what parts of me they didn't get to keep. Most of all, I had to make sure that when Clara and David came back, they'd never forget what they did, because I was done chasing, done explaining, done pretending I should be grateful for scraps of love. They walked away like I didn't matter. Now, I was going to show them what happens when someone they tried to erase decides she's done being invisible. The next step was getting off that ship and finding a way back to the States, but without aid cash or credit cards. That was a lot easier said than done. Still, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to beg Clara for anything. I'd rather sleep on a bathroom floor than give her the satisfaction of seeing me crawl. I couldn't stop thinking about that moment at the pool, how Clara didn't even flinch when she saw me. No fear, no guilt, just mild annoyance, like I'd ruined her spa day. That stung more than anything else. Her face said it all. You don't matter. I had always believed, no matter how rocky things got, Clara would never truly cut me out. I thought we were distant, not broken. But now I knew better. This wasn't a heat of the moment mistake. This was deliberate. She wanted me out of her life, clean, final, gone. I looked at what I had left. One half-eaten protein bar, a cruise room key that didn't work anymore, a phone with 17% battery, and no charger. I hadn't brought my purse to the pool, just slipped my phone into my robe pocket. If I hadn't, they probably would have packed that up too. I went to guest services, asking if I could borrow a charger for a few minutes. A young guy, maybe in his 20s, let me plug in behind the desk for 10 minutes. While I waited, I asked if there were any nearby ports with flights to the US. There was one leaving from a nearby island in 6 hours. I'd need cash for the water shuttle and a plane ticket. I didn't even have $1 to my name. Then I remembered. My wedding ring. I hadn't taken it off since George died 10 years ago. Not once, not even to shower. But now, it was the only thing I had left that was worth anything. My hands shook as I slipped it off, like I was cutting the last tie to something sacred. I walked out of the port and found a little jewelry shop. The man behind the counter barely glanced at me. He tested the ring, weighed it, tapped at a calculator, and finally said, $80. Cash. I nodded. He handed me a wrinkled envelope, and I walked out without saying a word. Water shuttle, $45. Plane ticket, $200. That left me with just enough to make it home, maybe grab a snack at the airport if I was careful. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink much. I just moved like a machine, one task at a time, until I found myself sitting at the gate, waiting for the flight back to JFK. That's when I finally got Wi-Fi. I called Rose, my best friend, the only person who'd still pick up. She answered on the second ring. Denise, are you okay? Just hearing her voice made my throat tighten. I had to hold the phone away so she wouldn't hear me sobbing. They left me, I finally said. They took my passport, my wallet, everything. And they're still at the beach like nothing happened. She didn't interrupt. She just listened while I poured it all out, what happened on the ship. The pool, the resort, the pawn shop, everything. When I was finished, she said something simple but perfect. Come home, we'll figure it out from there. That gave me just enough strength to keep breathing. The flight was quiet, nothing eventful, except for one thing I'll never forget. There was a little boy in the row ahead of me. He kept turning around to show me his drawings. This is my grandma, he said proudly, holding up a crayon picture of an old lady in a pink dress. His mom smiled. He's been talking about her all week. I smiled back, but it hurt deep in my chest. I turned toward the window, blinking hard. I thought about Mia. Did she even notice I was gone? Or did Clara tell her something like, Grandma didn't want to come, to make it sound harmless? That's exactly the kind of thing Clara would do, flip the story to make herself look clean. When the plane landed, I stepped off with nothing but my small tote bag. No luggage, no coat, no plan. I took the train back to New Jersey. Luckily, I had a habit of stashing my house keys in my robe paquita, weird little quirk that just saved me. I got off at my station and walked the last stretch to my house. Everything outside looked the same. The porch light was still on, the lawn was overgrown, but the house itself hadn't changed. But the second I stepped inside, it hit me. This house is filled with memories tied to people who just threw me away. The couch where Mia took her first steps. The rocking chair I sat in while Clara battled morning sickness. The family portrait I paid $300 for even, though David insisted his friend could have done it for free. I walked slowly through the house like I was visiting someone else's life. Then, I went to my room. I opened the drawer where I kept my emergency stash. It was hidden behind old tax folders, wrapped in an envelope labeled utilities. I pulled it out and opened it, empty. I felt the breath leave my body. I tore through the drawer, checked the cabinet, the lockbox in my closet. Gone. All of it. Every stash I'd ever set aside vanished. That's when the truth hit me full force. Clara hadn't just taken my passport or wallet. She'd been planning this. She must have searched my house at some point, maybe even tested me, taking little bits here and there to see if I noticed. She didn't just leave me behind. She cleaned me out. I logged into all my bank accounts, hoping maybe there had been a mistake, but the truth hit like a slap. Every account told the same story. Small, quiet transfers over the past several months to something labeled Bell Trust. It wasn't a trust. It wasn't for Mia. It was Clara. My own daughter had been stealing from Ms. Lowley, carefully like. She knew I wouldn't notice until the damage was done. As I scrolled through pages of transactions, the full picture came into focus. Cruise payments, resort fees, spa treatments, toy store charges, online shopping sprees, even an Etsy order for a custom birthday banner, all on my cards, all with my name on the bill. I felt sick. Betrayal isn't one big moment. It's a slow buildup of tiny lies stacked so neatly you don't see the fall coming until you're already in the air, and there's no soft landing. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at nothing, and realized I had two options. I could call Clara, beg her to explain, to fix it, or I could do the one thing she never saw coming, let go. Not just of the money, not even of the house, of her. That's when I decided I was going to sell everything. Everything she ever touched, everything they left behind, everything they ever expected would be here when they came crawling back. And when they returned, when they finally showed up at my door with their excuses and forced tears, they'd find nothing. No couch, no nursery, no fridge full of snacks. Just silence and freedom, my freedom. The kind you don't ask permission for. The kind you build, piece by piece, with your own hands. The next morning, I woke up and didn't cry. That surprised me. I thought I'd feel wrecked, numb. But instead, I felt sharp, steady, like something inside had finally locked into place. I didn't make coffee. I didn't scroll through my phone. I walked straight into the garage and stared at all the junk we'd piled up over the years, boxes and bins and shelves full of memories. Clara's dusty high school trophies, David's old bike parts, Mia's first Halloween costume, all just sitting there like they had a right to take up space. I started pulling things out one at a time. No hesitation. No second guessing. Just action. In my head, I made a mental list of everything that could sell quickly. Baby gear, furniture, the fancy dishes we only dragged out for Christmas. I opened Facebook Marketplace and typed up a listing. Whole house sale. Everything must go. Start time. Noon. No turning back. I took photos, lined up baby clothes like a store display, made the couch look decent with a throw pillow, even wiped down David's old guitar. Within 30 minutes, the messages started rolling in. I printed out signs and taped them to stop signs and light poles around the neighborhood. By 11:45, the first woman showed up, 3 kids in tow. She pointed at the toy chest. How much? 30, I said. She offered 20. Fine, I said. She handed me the cash, and that was it. A wave of relief rolled through me. Like every dollar I made was the universe whispering, I see you. I'm sorry. More people came. Some browsed. Some made small talk. A few asked questions like, wow, cleaning house, huh? I didn't explain. I didn't need to. Even Marlene, my neighbor from 2 houses down, stopped by crochet. She looked at me gently, like she didn't want to ask but couldn't help herself. Everything okay, Denise? I nodded. Family trip didn't go the way I planned. That was all I said. I sold the crib for $80. The dining table went for $150. To a young couple expecting their first baby, the couch gone. Some guy bought it without even sitting down. Each time someone drove away with a piece of my old life, I felt lighter. Like I was unclenching a fist I hadn't even realized I'd been making for years. Around 2 p.m., a man picked through a box I hadn't meant to put outside. It was full of photo albums, old letters, and a velvet box with the receipt for my wedding ring, dated 1981. How much for the whole box? He asked. I froze. I hadn't even noticed that box made it outside. I walked over, picked it up, and said, "Not for sale." He shrugged and walked away. I brought the box back inside, sat down, and flipped through an album. Clara as a baby, George holding her in the hospital, me 20-something, and smiling like someone who had no idea what betrayal even looked like. I didn't cry. I just closed the box and placed it on the top shelf of my closet. One thing I'd keep. One reminder that before all this, I had a life. A good one. Around 4 p.m., I noticed a teenager wandering the yard, phone out, filming everything. I figured he was just being nosy until he walked up to me. "You're Denise Stone, right?" he asked. I said yes. He held out his phone. On the screen was a video of Minot from today, from the cruise ship. I was asleep in a lounge chair, arms folded, mouth slightly open. The caption read, "Found the drama queen grandma we ditched, lol." My stomach dropped. I grabbed the phone and stared at the screen. The comments were worse than the video. "Is she dead weight or just toxic? She looks like she nags people to death. Bet she cries if her toast is cold." Lamau the mom did what we all wish we could do. I asked the boy where he got it. "It's been going around on TikTok," he said. "Someone posted it a few days ago. Said their family finally cut off their narcissist mom. It went viral." I couldn't speak. I just turned around, walked back inside, and sat down at the kitchen table. They filmed me. Clara filmed me while I was sleeping. Then they posted it online, mocked me, humiliated me in front of thousands of strangers. That wasn't just betrayal. That was erasure. A public execution of my dignity, livered with a camera and a caption. And suddenly, I knew. Clara didn't just leave me behind. She made me the villain in her story. But that story, it's not the only version that exists. And I'm not going to let her write the ending. That was more than just a breakup. It was a full-blown setup. Clara didn't just walk out. She planned it, filmed it, and shared it online for the world to laugh at. I found the video on TikTok. It had over 1 million views. You could hear her voice laughing in the background, saying, "I had no idea I'd been left behind." My hands shook not from sadness, but from pure anger. She didn't just leave me. She made me into a punchline. I called Rose and told her everything. She didn't offer sympathy. She just said, "Burn it down." And I knew exactly what she meant. Not with fire, but with finality. That night, I sold everything except for one box. I listed the house for rent, fully cleaned out, nothing left. I booked a moving truck and started checking short-term rentals. I wasn't going to let Clara come home to the same old place. She was coming back to find strangers living in her childhood home, and the locks changed. I didn't just walk away. I erased every trace. They thought they dumped me, but I made sure they'd be the ones left with nothing, no comfort, no backup plan, no mother to come crawling back to. And if they ever showed up asking what happened, I'd finally say the words they never thought I would. "You don't live here anymore." I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Not Rose, not the neighbors. I packed my one small box, left the house keys under a flower pot for the property manager, and walked away. The house was listed that same night. A young couple with 2 kids signed the lease within 2 days. I transferred the bills, forwarded the mail to a P.O. box, and made sure there was no sign I'd ever lived there. I moved into a tiny 1-bedroom, across town. It was nothing special, but it was clean and quiet. I used the money from a yard sale to pay the first couple of months, then took a part-time job at a thrift store. Not because I had to, but because I needed to stay busy. Sitting still made it too easy to remember. Clara smirking by the pool, David acting like he didn't care, little Mia probably wondering why Grandma disappeared. I stayed off social media, deleted every old photo, Even changed my phone background to a plain white mug I found at the shop. No words, no faces, just empty space. Clara texted me twice after the TikTok thing blew up. First it was, "I didn't mean for it to go viral. People twisted it." Then, "Can we talk soon?" I didn't answer either one. Then the texts stopped, until the day I knew would come. 2 weeks after I moved out, Rose called while I was at the thrift shop. "There, outside your old house," she said, with luggage. My hands froze. "Did you talk to them?" I asked. "Hell no," she said, but Clara rang my doorbell. She looked confused and pissed. I thanked her and hung up. A few hours later, I got a message from Clara. "Why is there a stranger living in your house?" No hello, no apology. Just that. I didn't reply. That night, I went back, not inside, just across the street to watch. I saw them, Clara ringing the bell over and over like it would magically open. David pacing, Mia sitting on a suitcase, quietly eating a snack. When the new tenant finally opened the door, Clara started, waving her hands, trying to explain. The woman looked annoyed, said nothing, and shut the door. A few minutes later, they gave up and drove off. The next morning, I knew they'd try to find me, so I moved again. I'd already lined up a new place, teeny upstairs unit in Brooklyn. Walking distance to the vintage market I liked. No one had the address, not even Rose. I left her a voicemail to let her know I was safe, and that was all she needed to hear. 2 days later, they found me, not at home, but at work. I was in the back, organizing mugs when the bell above the shop door rang. I walked out and there they were. Clara looked thinner, tired. David stood beside Mia, who clung to his hand. Clara opened her mouth, but nothing came out for a moment. Then she said, "Can we talk?" I nodded and led her to the little break room, just 2 chairs and a tiny table. David stayed out front with Mia. Clara sat across from me, eyes wide, voice trembling. "You changed the locks," she said. "You emptied the house. You didn't tell anyone where you went." I looked straight at her. "You left me in another country. You drained my savings. You filmed me sleeping and turned me into a joke online." Her face went red. "I didn't post it," David thought. "It was funny. It wasn't supposed to go viral." I said nothing. She shifted in her seat. "Mom," I panicked. "You were always there, watching, commenting, giving your opinion. I just wanted 1 week where I didn't feel like I was being monitored." I waited for the real truth to show up. Then she added quietly, "But I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought you'd be mad. Not gone." I had been ready for that moment for weeks. I pulled out the manila envelope I'd kept tucked. A weight had everything inside: bank statements, still shots from the video, and a full list of the money Clara had taken from my accounts. I slid it across the table, toward her. "You didn't just need a break, Clara," I said, my voice steady. "You planned this. You took my money, you took my passport, you forged my name and stole from me. And then, worst of all, you laughed about it online." She opened the envelope and started flipping through the papers. Her hands began to shake. "I can explain some of this," she started, but I cut her off. "I'm not here for explanations. I'm not pressing charges. I don't need a court to tell me who you are. I just need you to hear me loud and clear. You don't live there anymore. You don't get to call me when you need help. I'm not your safety net. I'm done." That version of Mitha, one who always picked up, always helped, always hoped, is gone. Clara didn't cry. I think she wanted to, but she held it in. She just looked down and whispered, "Mia misses you." I didn't say a word. She stood up and left without looking back. David didn't speak either. He just grabbed the stroller and followed her out. I stayed behind the counter at work for the rest of the day, pretending to sort shelves. But my mind kept drifting back to Mia, not Clara, not the money, just that little girl, sitting on a suitcase, clueless about why everything around her had changed. That night, I made a choice I hadn't expected. I opened the drawer under the register and pulled out a small teddy bear one Clara thought she'd sold during the yard sale. I had hidden it. I placed it gently in a box with a short note. "You deserved better. Love, Grandma." No return address, just the truth. I mailed it anonymously the next morning, then walked away without looking back. I thought I'd feel regret after sending it. I braced for guilt, that aching feeling I used to get when I thought of Mia's laugh or her little hand holding mine, but it never came. What I felt instead was a strange, quiet peace. Not happiness, not revenge, just relief. Like I'd done the last thing I ever would for them, and now I could finally start living for me. I didn't tell anyone, not even Rose. I just kept going. I settled into my new place in Brooklyn, a tiny upstairs apartment above a laundromat. It wasn't fancy, but it had big windows and just enough space for me and a few boxes of things that still felt like mine. I decorated, slowly, one second-hand chair, a thrifted table, a shelf for books I'd always meant to read but never had time for, no framed family photos, no souvenirs, no reminders of the people who had turned my life upside down, just space. Clean and simple. Every day, I walked to work at the vintage shop. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. I liked the rhythm of its sorting, pricing, chatting with customers who didn't know anything about my past. Sometimes I caught myself smiling again, even laughing. Rose came by a few times. She never pushed for answers, just helped me sort donations and told stories about her latest baking disasters like nothing had changed. One afternoon, she showed up with a little paper bag. "Found this at the old house," she said, "behind a cabinet. Thought you might want it." Inside was a small locket, my mother's. I hadn't seen it in years. I opened it gently. One side held a photo of me as a child, grinning with 2 missing teeth. The other side was blank. I stared at it for a long time, then fastened it around my neck and wore it back to the shop. I didn't explain it to anyone. It was just for me. With some money left from the yard sale and my part-time job, I rented a small space on the corner and opened my own vintage boutique. I named it Distone Finds. Rose helped me paint the sign. I filled the shop with thrifted treasures, old donations, and little things I'd picked up over the years. I put the locket in a shadow box by the register, not for sale, just a reminder of something still mine. The shop started slow but steady. People liked that I remembered their names, that I didn't pressure them to buy. Some just came in to talk. One young woman brought in her toddler and asked if I had any soft toys. I handed her a stitched bunny I'd found at a flea market. As they walked out, the little girl looked back and waved. My throat tightened, but I didn't cry. I just smiled and waved back. I never heard from Clara again. No texts, no calls, no letters. I assume she got the teddy bear. Maybe she knew it was from me. Maybe not. It didn't matter. That chapter was over. I wasn't waiting for closure or apologies. I deleted social media, left every family group chat. I had disappeared in all the ways that counted on for the first time. It felt right. Not angry, not bitter, just final. I kept the shop running, made just enough to live simply. On my days off, I walked, read books, and chatted with the woman at the corner deli who always saved me the last blueberry muffin. I even went on a coffee date with a man named Walter. He'd lost his wife a few years back. We talked for hours about old records and classic movies. It didn't turn into love, but for the first time, someone saw me as I was, not someone's mom, someone's backup plan. Just Denise, whole. On the 1-year anniversary of the cruise, I didn't do anything dramatic. I didn't need to. I was already free. I opened the shop like I always did, same quiet routine, same old rhythm. But that day, I did one small thing just for me. I printed a photo from the cruise, not one with the family, not a smiling selfie, just a picture of the hall with a empty one. I walked through the morning. I realized I'd been left behind. It was quiet and cold in that picture, a little blurry, but I remembered every detail. I framed it and set it behind the counter. It wasn't sad to me. It reminded me of the exact moment I knew I had to save myself, and did. Not everyone gets to say that. Every night, I'd close the shop, turn off the lights, and lock the door behind me. I'd walk home with nothing but my keys in one hand, and that locket still around my neck. Some days, Mia came to mind. I missed her. I always would, but I didn't cling to the ache anymore. I'd stopped wishing for what I couldn't fix. I didn't need to pretend the past had been better than it was. I didn't need apologies or redos to feel okay about where I was headed. All I needed was to keep moving forward, one step at a time, on my own terms. And for the first time in a very long time, I liked where I was. That's today's story. If it touched you, leave a like and subscribe. And don't forget, share your own life lesson in the comments below.